All right, welcome back, my friends, to Salt City Counseling. Once again, my name's Scott. I'm a licensed therapist, and I am in the beautiful state of Utah. As usual, in this video, I'm going to talk about how I personally overcame my own depression and my own anxiety on my own without the use of medication. That's not to say that I didn't ever take medication. I took it for a little bit. I used medication, but largely without any kind of medication. I'm going to kind of tell you how I paved that path and how I went about figuring it out. And of course, this is obviously going to be a video that's a little bit more personal in nature, but it's sort of whatever. I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. I was very anxious and I was very depressed when I was younger. I struggled with it very, very badly, honestly. I really did. Both of them. I had severe, what I would, in retrospect, consider to be pretty severe anxiety and pretty severe depression. And and frankly, I don't struggle with those things anymore. I experience them maybe a little bit from time to time, but they are no longer my master. My life isn't ruled by these things, okay? And so I'm going to kind of lay this out a little bit for you and give you some ideas on how I went about doing this. But, I did this on my own, and I'm also a therapist, which means that if I can do it, you can do it. And I've helped a lot of people at least greatly improve their depression and greatly improve their anxiety through a lot of the same techniques and methods. The first thing that I want to kind of lay out there in regards to like overcoming, fixing depression, anxiety, curing it, whatever word you want to use, is that what I find with people is that there are they're fenced in by their perceived limitations on this. We have more or less been conditioned and frankly sort of lied to that it can't be done, that we cannot overcome this, that it's just something that you have to learn to live with or that you have to deal with or that there's some sort of flaw or defect here. And so that is one of the things that I would tell people right off the bat. I would tell you right off the bat that anxiety and depression can be fixed. 100% can be fixed. And get this nonsense out of your mind that it's just part of who you are and that there's no fixing it. Honestly, I think that is an ugly lie. I think it's ugly to tell people that they have these limitations. And on that note, right, we've probably all heard the story of the 5-minute mile of the guy who, like they said, you could not run a mile in under 5 minutes and nobody could do it. And finally some guy did it. And then as soon as he did it, a whole bunch of other people did it as well. And so it's like we have these limitations in our mind, right? We have these limitations in our mind. And so I'm going to lay this out just very, very briefly for you on what I found to be effective and what really helped me. Frankly, I feel like I could write a whole book on this to understand depression, to understand anxiety, and all of that. I feel like I could write a book on this. And if I thought people might read it, maybe. But in essence, okay, first, I had to ignore conventional wisdom. I had to learn to realize that what was conventionally believed about these things was not true. And I honestly convinced myself that the right answer existed and that I was going to find it one way or another. And I honestly did. I really did. And I was right. And actually, I didn't have to look nearly as far as I thought that I did. The answer was a lot more simple than I thought it would be. Far less complicated than I thought it would be, far less extravagant than I thought it would be, so second in all of that, I had to become determined. Success in this way has more to do, I believe, with discipline than motivation, and just being determined. That every time you fall down, because you will, there's a lot of things that I could say about this process and this path, and one of them is that I fell down over and over and over again. Over again, I fell down, and sometimes I stayed down for a while. I did, and that was okay. And it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna stay here. Whatever, I don't care anymore. I just screw it, I'm done, right? And then, inevitably, I found my way back to my feet, and it worked out, right? It continues to work out, and so like it's okay to fall down, and it's okay. It's okay to stay down for a little bit. Just make sure that you always pick yourself back up and find yourself back to your feet, okay? Next, I had to take this stuff on directly. And this is a particularly important point for our current society, our current culture, if you can call it that. Because what I find with a lot of people these days, one of the biggest barriers of people getting well and finding mental wellness is that they don't want to do anything difficult. They don't want to do anything uncomfortable, and they don't want to do anything that's painful. They don't want to face anything that makes them uncomfortable, so they avoid it. The avoidance of discomfort, honestly, is killing you. I recently found this guy named Gary Brecka. He's a kind of a health guru. He gives really good health advice. I've really been soaking up his content on physical health. But he said it, man. He said it when he one of his phrases, one of the things that he says, and I 1,000,000% agree with him. Comfort is death. It will kill you. The more comfortable you make yourself, the faster you're going to die. And emotionally, even. Like, you can be dead before you're physically dead. You can be emotionally and psychologically dead before you're physically dead. And comfort and just doing everything that's comfort, easy, and painless, that's the road to early death. It really is. So you got to get this nonsense out of your mind that you have to avoid things that are difficult and painful, okay? So yeah, I had to take it head on. I had to get radically honest with myself. Radically honest with myself. I had to explore my anxiety. I had to get to know it. I had to explore my depression and really get to know it. I had to understand it and get to know it extremely well. And I had to know what the triggers were. I had to know when I was noticing it early on, and I had to know how to intervene for myself, and I had to force myself to see those interventions through, right? Like I knew that when I was starting to feel depressed, I had to get up and move. I had to physically move. I had to go exercise. I had to go ride my bike. I had to go outdoors. I had to go find a friend and talk to that friend. And when I forced myself to do those things, I felt better. Like, I was less depressed. And really, that's one of the things that really helps me get control of my depression, was just forcing myself to get up and move and do stuff. Okay. So get radically honest with yourself about it. Okay. Fourth, I had to take full responsibility for my experience in life. I had to accept that nobody was going to fix this for me but me. My hero was looking back at me in the mirror. There wasn't going to be the right relationship. There wasn't going to be the right therapist. There wasn't going to be the right book that was going to fix me. It had to be me. I had to do the work. And I had to accept the fact that even though I was experiencing depression and anxiety because of a lot of things that had happened in my childhood, and those things were against my will, that I didn't ask for those things. I didn't invite those things. I didn't want those things. It was still my job to clean it up. It was still my job to clean up the mess that those things left in my life. I'm going to scroll down my notes a little bit. Okay. Next, I had to let a lot of things go. I had to accept. I had to let go of my need for the world to be a certain way, for other people to be a certain way, or for my life to be a certain way. I had to let a lot of that stuff go. Because the discrepancy between what I think my life is supposed to be versus what it is creates a lot of pain. A lot of pain comes from that. And that radical honesty process is all part of that, okay? Next, gaining some perspective, okay? This goes along with being radically honest. But I had to realize that anxiety and fear, mostly anxiety, it's a liar. Anxiety would tell me that like, I would get feelings and emotions. Certain things were going to happen in my life, or certain things were going to happen in the world, and they were going to be horrible and catastrophic, and they never happened. And so at some point, I had to be radically honest with myself and say, hey, stupid, figure it out. Stop falling for this trick. Like, it's almost like I have this mean person following me around and playing tricks on me, right? And realizing that every time I experienced severe anxiety, that thing would never happen. Or if it did, it would happen to such a small degree, and then I would get through it. I would get it figured out. And I did. And I would get it would get through it. I would get it figured out, okay? And so I had to gain some perspective by realizing that anxiety is BS. Listening to anxiety is BS. And if I listened to anxiety, then my head was going to be full of a whole bunch of BS. Okay, so one of the tricks is learning to not listen to anxiety, recognizing what anxiety is like, what it feels like when it comes in like a freaking tsunami, and being like, okay, been here, done that. We have to not fall for this. Okay. And finally, I had to be really disciplined. I've already mentioned this. Success does not come, guys, from motivation. It comes from discipline. That's and just being really diligent and not giving up. Okay, diligence and discipline, a whole bunch of good D words I could throw at you, and seeing those things through. I will add this one more thing, this one more last thing that I think needs to be mentioned. It was very important for me, and it still is extremely important to me to adopt a mindset of learning and acquiring information and growing from learning and all of that. We live in a culture, we live in a society where everybody's right about everything all of the time. Nobody can admit that they're wrong. Nobody can say, well, I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm making this video just off the heels of this new situation in Israel, and we no longer have a internet full of experts on Russia and Ukraine, and instead we have an internet full of people who are experts on Israel and Palestine. I mean, honestly, for someone like me, for example, to sit here and talk like I know what's going on over there, like, yeah, get over yourselves. I have no idea. I am in no position to talk like I know what's going on over there, or that I understand all the dynamics, right? I am in no position to do that. And so what I'm trying to illustrate here is that it's not only not bad. I mean, it's okay to admit I don't know, and I'm learning, and I want to learn, and I want to figure it out. So, but I think people are afraid to say that they that don't know or that they were wrong because they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to open themselves up to criticism. I think a lot of what fuels some of our mental illnesses these days is the fear of criticism, the fear of constant criticism. That if you say, well, I don't know, then people are like, right? And if, and again, the fear of criticism. If people are criticizing you, that doesn't say something about you necessarily. It probably says more about them. Try to keep that in mind. Okay, so adopt a learner's mindset. Adopt the idea that I need to learn. And honestly, that means letting go of a lot of things that you learned and you thought were right and you thought were correct and were not. Very little of what I thought was correct growing up is still correct for me or effective. And so if you're really, really attached to or you're clinging to a whole bunch of ideals and things that just aren't working for you, it's going to take you that much longer to get there. So learn, let things go, be disciplined, be radically honest with yourself, and take full responsibility. Okay? There's a whole lot more to it, but I would love to hear your questions and your feedback. Let me know what else you want to hear on this topic. Put in the comment section below. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. Lots of good content here on mental health and improving your own mental health on your own with your own fruition. That's my goal. That's my goal, is to teach all of you out there how to be your own hero, to be your own therapist. Okay? Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.